For far too long, Democrats have been pushing dangerous gender ideology on children, claiming that you have a sex assigned at birth versus sex that you may identify with. This is leaving children more confused about basic biology and leading them down the path of life-altering decisions.
Okay, reclaiming my time here.
This is the definition of male and female included in the bill.
Well, again, is there any scientific basis for this, or did you just offer this one?
Well, it's so obvious that so many times the Democrats are unable to define men and women. And so that's what we've done. We've defined male and female.
All right, well, if you're the expert, you tell us where you got this information.
We've defined it in this bill.
Okay, so in other words, it's a creation of the GOP staff of the Judiciary Committee?
I think that this is a biological definition of male and female.
From where?
Welcome back to Right View Nation, where we don't bend the knee, we don't back down, and we sure as hell don't let the left rewrite biology. Today, Patriots, we're diving headfirst into one of the most insane, embarrassing, and absolutely revealing debates to come out of Washington in a long time. It's about something so basic, so foundational, that we never thought it'd be up for political debate. The definition of a man and a woman. But here we are. Congress just debated an amendment that does nothing more than clarify what we all learned in basic biology. That males produce sperm. Females produce eggs. That's it. No agenda. No feelings. Just science. But to the radical left, that's controversial. To the woke mob in Washington, that's offensive. And folks, that tells you everything you need to know about how far we've fallen as a nation. Now, let me break it down for you.
Amendment to the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 3492, offered by Ms. Hagman of Wyoming. Page 8, line 19.
Without objection, the amendment be considered as read. Gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
I'll reserve the point of order.
This amendment simply strengthens the definitions of biological sex as well as the definitions of male and female in the legislation, and I urge support for my amendment, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The question is on the amendment by the gentlelady from Wyoming. Is there further discussion? Is there discussion?
But perhaps the introducer of the amendment could explain what the purpose of the amendment is.
I can. As I said, it strengthens the definition of biological sex, and then also it further defines male and female. As you can see, it would insert these definitions on page 9 after line 18. Identifying male means a person who naturally has, had, will have, or would have, but for a congenital anomaly, historical accident, or intentional or unintentional disruption, the reproductive system that at some point produces, transports, and utilizes sperm for fertilization. For female, the term female means a person who naturally has, had, will have, or would have, but for a congenital anomaly, historical accident, or intentional or unintentional disruption, the reproductive system that at some point produces, transports, and utilizes eggs for fertilization.
Mr. Raskin has the time.
Okay, but I'm no expert in this amendment, so I'm not quite sure. If the gentlelady would just yield for a quick question, is there some particular scientific provenance for this definition? Is it? Yeah.
What's funny is if you just read the definition, I think that it is something that we probably all learned in high school biology. For far too long, Democrats have been pushing dangerous gender ideology on children, claiming that you have a sex assigned at birth versus sex that you may identify with. This is leaving children more confused about basic biology and leading them down the path of life-altering decisions.
Okay, reclaiming my time here. If I'm reading the definition correctly, and again, the gentlelady has not clarified where it comes from. I don't know which medical association or scientific group came up with this, but this seems to be perfectly consistent with with people being transgender. It says the term male means a person who naturally has, had, will have, or would have, barring congenital anomaly, historical acts. So I don't know. Again, we haven't had any hearing on this, but this doesn't seem to be incompatible with there being transgender people, which obviously there are. There seem to be more than 1 million of them in the country.
This is the definition of male and female included in the bill.
Well, again, is there any scientific basis for this, or did you just offer this one?
Well, it's so obvious that so many times the Democrats are unable to define men and women. And so that's what we've done. We've defined male and female.
All right, well, if you're the expert, you tell us where you got this information.
We've defined it in this bill.
Okay, so in other words, it's a creation of the GOP staff of the Judiciary Committee?
I think that this is a biological definition of male and female.
From where? Yeah, it already says biological.
Right.
Physician would be.
But you're amending a bill which already has the language of the biological definition. It says the term biological sex means the indication of male or female sex by reproductive potential or capacity. Sex chromosomes and naturally occurring sex hormones, gonads, or internal or external genitalia present at birth. Well, I mean, what is your problem with that definition? I'm not necessarily opposed to yours. Yours seems to be much more embracing of the transgender idea than the other one does. But I'm just curious where it comes from if we're going to proceed on the basis of science.
This was what I was provided as far as the amendment for the bill.
All right. Well, thank you for that inquiry that you made into it. I think that people's privates should be private. I'm a little embarrassed by a lot of the conversation today, and I think all of this is unnecessary, and all of it is a massive intrusion into the private family life of the patients, states' power to regulate medicine, and the medical associations that have actually worked on this. So I'm not quite sure which of these two definitions is superior to the other. I'd be interested to know whether anybody has any scientific basis for it. I mean, I'm happy to yield to anybody. Perhaps Ms. Valiant could help me out.
Oh, well, a question that I had is that I noticed that what my colleague has brought forward does not acknowledge at all the fact that there are intersex people who are born with sex characteristics that do not fit typical binary notions of male or female. And any doctor who is worth their salt will tell you that that is the reality, that there are intersex people living across this country that do not exactly fit your definition. So I want to know, where do they fit in? Do they not exist?
This bill isn't directed to that. This bill is the mutilation of children.
We're reclaiming my time. Let me reclaim my time.
Allegedly,
Mr.
allegedly
Raskin.
change
Would the gentleman
their
yield?
gender.
Mr. Chairman, look, the gentlelady from Vermont makes a very important point, which is there are people who are born with intersex genitalia. And she asked, where does this fit into this definition? Again, nobody has really clarified why this definition is superior to the one that is already in the bill. From my perspective, all of it is a massive invasion of privacy, and I'm just surprised that none of my colleagues has mentioned the word parent or mother or father today. If we're talking about vaccines for children, I think everybody would say that should be up to the parents. Why have the parents completely disappeared from the picture here? Is nobody interested in the parents? I mean, shouldn't we be trusting them to love their children a little bit more than Marjorie Taylor Greene loves them?
Gentleman's time has expired. Is there further discussion? Mr. Onder.
Yes. Will the ranking member yield?
Yes, by all means.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I believe, and I was just handed this definition myself, I believe that this definition covers a couple of things. I think it does cover the issue of intersex individuals who have congenital anomalies. Also, the part about the congenital anomalies could also include genetic abnormalities like Klinefelter syndrome, which is a male with YO chromosomes who are sterile, and of course Turner syndrome, which is XO, which individuals who who are also female but sterile. So I believe that's the purpose of this definition.
Mr. Onder, would you yield?
Yes. I will.
For further clarification, this is the definition that was included in Dr. Marshall's Senate File 977 in the bill that he introduced, which was to prohibit taxpayer-funded gender transition procedures and for other purposes.
Does the gentleman yield back?
Could I answer the?
Well, the gentleman, Mr. Onder controls the time. Mr. Onder?
Mr. Onder, will you yield for a question?
Yes, I yield.
Thank you.
Yes, I yield.
So your question's a strong one, and it raises for me, how are we going to interpret and apply these definitions? In other words, let's say a person presents themselves to you. What would you do in order to determine whether they have gone through the congenital anomaly or historical accident or intentional or unintentional disruption and so on to qualify as a male or as a female? In other words, how does this improve upon asking someone, are you male or female? Right, yeah, that's my question.
Well, I think the point is that sex, male or female, is a biological reality. It's not a social construct or a psychological construct. It's not. Sex is sex. There are males and females, and that is
and
what
intersex, which is my
this
point.
law. Well, folks who are intersex, or male or female, they have congenital anomalies, but they are.
Will you yield for a question, Mr. Onder?
I will yield.
What time is it? I'm sorry. So, in good faith here, I'm trying to engage with you in a colloquy, because I do not understand. So you're saying there are intersex people. They have sex characteristics of both male and female. And the question goes to the heart of, who is deciding that? Who is deciding how they are presenting? So you're going to tell.
It's usually decided by genotype most often, and again, there are abnormal genotypes like
No. I'm
like
saying
XXY, Klein,
no. If I
Weilers,
could, I want to get back to.
Turners.
No, I'm asking you a serious question here. I'm asking you a serious question.
I'm giving you a serious answer.
Who? But is that person who is presenting with both characteristics? Do they get to decide how they are presenting in the world?
Well,
If
I decide tomorrow that I am a woman, I'm still a man because
I'm talking about
I
intersex
meet
individuals.
this definition.
I'm talking about intersex individuals. That's what I'm talking about here. Are you deciding for them?
No,
Who's deciding?
There is a biological reality that this definition would recognize.
Well, I disagree, but I appreciate you
If the gentleman would yield for one follow-up on that.
Yes.
So I accept your position that it's a biological reality, although that departs from the language here, which talks about historical accident or intentional or unintentional disruption, which doesn't seem to relate to biological condition.
No, the historical accident would mean, for instance, if someone suffered a tragic accident that rendered them infertile. If that happened to a man, if it happened to me, I would be rendered infertile.
I got you.
I'd still be male.
So my question remains, though, say in the case of an intersex individual or somebody who is born infertile for different reasons, who makes the decision, who applies what you're describing as the biological standard? Who decides that? Is it the person and their family and their doctor, or is it the U.S. Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney for the district?
Well, I think what you're getting at, you're trying to get me to embrace your idea of this term sex assigned at birth, but there is a biological reality that the baby born is male or is female. They may have, this baby may unfortunately have a genetic abnormality like Turner's and be exogenotype, or Klinefelter's XXY genotype, or maybe have other testicular feminization, various other birth defects, but that doesn't change the fact that that individual is male or female. And I think that's what this definition covers.
Gentlemen's time has expired. Who seeks recognition? question, it's an amendment, right? The question occurs on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Wyoming. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. The question now is, who seeks recognition? Gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this has been kind of a mind-blowing conversation today, but I just wanted to share something that this bill and so many of the other bills targeting the transgender community, the effect that it has been having on our children. So I had a roundtable to talk about nutrition assistance and small businesses a couple weeks ago in my district, and it was just people sitting around talking about how to get more money for the food bank and for school nutrition and how to support our small businesses. And after we finished the roundtable, a woman came up to me with tears in her eyes and asked if she could talk to me. And I said, of course. And she told me that what is going on in Congress and with our president and the lack of any compassion for people who are transgender has caused her child so much distress that her child is thinking about leaving this country. And her child is transgender. And it feels like ever since this Congress has been in session and this president has been really exploiting that child's entire being, that they're not safe in this country. And then I started to cry. And I hugged her. And I said, I will go back to Washington and share your story. So I'm doing that today. Thank you, and I'll yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
Congresswoman Hageman from Wyoming introduced an amendment to define male and female based on reproductive biology. Seems logical, right? It aligns with science, with medical truth, with reality. But instead of applauding clarity and objectivity, Democrats were falling over themselves trying to spin this into something hateful. They were offended, yes, offended, by definitions rooted in biological fact. Let me ask you this. When did it become extreme to say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman? When did facts become offensive? When did we start letting feelings trump chromosomes? You had Representative Raskin questioning where the definition came from, as if we need a citation to say water is wet or fire is hot. Folks, this is high school biology. But apparently, it's too much for the modern Democrat Party. They rambled on about intersex individuals and historical accidents, as if fringe medical exceptions should define national policy. No, sir. We do not rewrite the entire dictionary for the exception. We don't throw science in the trash because someone feels like something else. And then, this part is just unbelievable. Another Democrat actually shared a story of a transgender child supposedly wanting to flee the country because they don't feel safe. Let me be clear, no child should feel unsafe. But the reason they're confused isn't because someone defined biology. It's because the left has pushed a twisted narrative that says truth is hate and delusion is courage. That's not compassion. That's manipulation. This is exactly why America is in crisis. This is why our schools are broken. This is why our children are confused. Because the institutions we use to trust, education, medicine, government, have been hijacked by ideology. The radical left is trying to erase truth, erase God, and erase common sense. All in the name of tolerance. Well, not on our watch. Right View Nation, we will not be silent while they teach our kids that sex is a social construct. We will not sit down while they try to ban basic truths. We will not surrender our language, our values, or our biology to the altar of wokeism. To every Republican who stood firm and voted yes on this amendment, thank you. You're holding the line. You're reminding the country that truth still matters. That facts still matter. That biology is not up for negotiation. And to the Democrats who continue to mock, deflect, and cry every time someone tells the truth, maybe it's time you sit this one out. Maybe it's time you re-enroll in high school biology. Because we don't have time for your nonsense. The American people are waking up, and we've had enough. This isn't just about an amendment. This is about the soul of our nation. If we can't say what a man is, if we can't define a woman, then what else are we willing to surrender? Not us. Not now. Not ever. This is Right View Nation. Hit that like button if you still believe men are men and women are women. Subscribe if you're done with the insanity. Share this video to every American who refuses to bow to the woke left. God bless you. God bless truth. And God bless the United States of America.